What is going on, NPL? It's your boy, Trev the King here. And today, I will be bringing you guys the NPL Minors Week 1 Power Rankings. Now, you might notice the absence of Richard. We recorded this before, and it didn't really... my audio didn't register in Camtasia for some reason. So, what I had Richard do was just send me his justifications for power rankings, and I decided that I'll record them myself because he wouldn't be available again for another power rankings recording session. So that's what I'll do. I will just give his justifications in this video, so have no fear. His rankings and justifications will still be here. They won't be quite as good as normal because, you know, I'm the one giving his justifications, so I can't necessarily, like, express his points to the max like he could, but I will try my best. So, starting off, my number 12 is the North Carolina Tar Heels and their coach Parker. They played MB and the Dons of the World this week, who, you know, MB was my number 11 in the preseason. Parker was my number 12. Parker got pretty well smashed by MB. It was decent in like the first 5 turns, and then Parker just played way too safe after that, and that's what really cost him the battle. MB just took advantage of Parker playing way too safe, and that resulted in the 5-0 victory for MB and his Dons of the World. For Richard's number 12, he has Stab. His justification for this is because he had 2 people behind him in his preseason power rankings, and they both won. And he also lost to the lowest winner on Richard's power rankings. So that is Richard's reason that Stab and his Chicago Sacred Fire are number 12. My number 11 are Ashley and her Detroit Pincer. Now, it's kind of weird because she was my number 5, and, you know, you think after playing my number 1 team from the preseason that she wouldn't drop this far. However, the only reason she was number 5 even in the first place was because in the preseason we tried to do it based off just teams, and that's the reason why she was that high, is because just her team. I saw her, and she was a majors coach last year with me and Richard, and she just did not do well. Now, there was, you know, she was busy, that's true, but until she can actually prove to me that she can succeed, I'm just going to have to put her near the bottom every week. For Richard's number 11, he had Parker and the North Carolina Tar Heels. He had him ranked 5th originally, and like I said, Parker did start off the match all right. But then he played too safe after he missed Hurricane with Tornadus and lost it to Dragouge. I also would like to point out that Hurricane wouldn't have even killed Dragouge anyway because it's really specially bulky, so I personally disagree with the play too. And then Richard also says, no Shadow Ball on Jellicent may have been an oversight, poor preparation. He didn't have a way to hit Celebi unless he had Ice Beam, but still Shadow Ball is better to hit Celebi than Ice Beam. My number 10 is Stab and his Chicago Sacred Fire. Stab didn't play poorly. He lost 0-0 to Cutness and the Virginia Tech Frokies. But, you know, he still lost. And, you know, both teams didn't really impress me. And, you know, I'm looking at Richard's justifications, and they didn't really impress him either. Neither team. They both made some weird plays. You know, Stab, this was just mispreparation. He meant to make a physically defensive Arcanine, but instead put in Spadef. That really cost him. He also had Bulldoze over Extreme Speed. Looking back at it, he actually wanted to put Extreme Speed on there, but, you know, again, just mispreparation. And that kind of actually cost him the battle, because he could have kept Arcanine around longer, because not only would he have been able to, you know, Extreme Speed Durant, but he also would have been able to kind of counter the Infernape, counter/check the Infernape near the end of the battle. But yeah, that is why Stab is my number 10. Did not play too terribly well. Didn't play poorly, so he's not near the bottom, but I mean, he is near the bottom, but he's not like at the very bottom. But he didn't play too well, and that's why he is my number 10. For Richard's number 10, he has Boo and his San Francisco 49 Tails. He doesn't have much to say on this. He lost a close match to Richard's week 0 or preseason third-ranked team, which was Andrew and the Miami Heat Trans. He was hoping that Boo would prove his doubts about his team wrong, and he nearly did. He lost 1-0 to Andrew and the Miami Heat Trans. Yes, he still lost, so he had to move him down, but just a bit. Richard kind of viewed Andrew's team, not Andrew's, Boo's team, like I viewed Mono's team, in that, it was a good team, but, there was just something wrong with it that you couldn't catch, but it kind of, you just had a bad feeling about it. And so Richard was really hoping that Boo could prove him wrong, and he almost did, but a really close loss. And so that is why Richard has Boo and his San Francisco 49 Tails at number 10. Alright, at number 9, I have Salem and his Kansas City Rock and Royals. Now, Salem did lose, yes, but he also did move up because I was really impressed by his play. Preseason, I ranked him number 10, but I did say he had the most potential out of any team in this league, and he really proved that against me. He played against Michael very well in the first half of the battle. In fact, if he had just brought, instead of Cotton Guard, bring Heel Belt, or if he had brought, Facade over Return, he would have won that. He would have swept Michael with Mega Altaria, and he would have won that game. And he would have moved up a lot on my list because Michael was my preseason number 2. But unfortunately, Michael played really, really well in the end and beat Salem. Salem outplayed him the first half of the battle. Michael outplayed him the second half of the battle. But that first half of the battle was enough to impress me to move him up to number 9. All right, so Richard's number 9 is Ashley and her Detroit Pincers. Richard had high hopes for her and her team, things that stopped him from putting her lower than number 9. Even though he ranked Vic's team number 11 in the preseason, he was the team that he felt had the most potential to improve, kind of like how I felt like Salem's team had the most potential in the league. He says about Vic's team, his team, despite not being the most synergetic, still has daunting threats like Victini and Weavile. Ashley was playing a good player with a scary team, and her nature's got a bit messed up. That's something else to explain. Ashley's natures, this wasn't either of their fault, either Vic or Ashley's. It was Showdown's fault. Her nature's all switched to neutral, and that actually kind of played a pretty decent role. It didn't matter because she, on one mon, because she had a Ditto, but if, for example, she crit Mega Venusaur about a little bit into the battle, and if she had been Adamant Ember, which she might have tried to be, then it actually would have killed the Mega Venusaur outright, and that would have possibly changed the game around a little bit. She prepared and played a bit like she did in Season 3, which I already mentioned previously was not a very good season for her. He still thinks that with proper team building and more flexible battle strategies, she can redeem herself, but we have to be shown that she can before she can move back up in the ranks. So, kind of like I said before, similar to that. Alright, for now, my number 8, I have Mono and his Tampa Bay Luxrays. Now, Mono lost to Palm, who was actually below him in the rankings in the preseason, but Mono still didn't move down because it was really because of his team that Mono was even that low. So, if Mono had won, I would have been happy to move him up a lot, just because once, it wasn't just team-based. I really like Mono as a player, and I knew that this was the type of team Mono would like. But unfortunately, he did lose to Palm and the Brisbane Breloons. But since, I'm very impressed with Mono as a player, and as I know that's the type of team he likes, I didn't punish him for it. So he still stays at number 8. So Richard's number 8 is Cutness and his Virginia Tech Frokie. He was Richard's lowest ranked winner. He made some questionable plays throughout the match. He was most fixated on the beginning, where, if you didn't see the match, Cutness went for Hydro Pump, turn 1 as a Focus Sash Duck Trio setup rocks, and then proceeded to go for Volt Switch 2 times in a row, even though the Duck Trio was at 1%, and Stab was able to get off some pretty nice damage on the Rotom to knock it into range of, like, Gardevoir's Hyper Voice, and he didn't even kill it. He went into Fortress he did get the spin kill with Fortress, so he was able to prevent rocks for the rest of the game. However, he did sacrifice about 30-35% of Rotom's health, because he just wouldn't kill it right off. So Richard really didn't like that beginning part because, ground is immune to electric, obviously, if you guys didn't know. Rotom wasn't trapped with Arena Trap due to its Levitate. He had like I said, he had no reason to assume that a Sash Suicide lead would be preserved, especially since the Sash was already broken and it was at 1 HP. There was no reason to preserve it for, like, trapping Infernape, because Infernape probably carries Mach Punch if it's physical, which it turned out to be, and it turned out to have Mach Punch. So there was really no reason not to go for a Hydro Pump or a Will-O-Wisp, because Stab wouldn't risk Arcanine, switching to Arcanine on a Will-O-Wisp, just to take, like, a really big Hydro Pump, even though he was Spit F, which, again, he should have been Fizz Def Arcanine, but that was a mistake. But yeah, that's Richard's reasoning for Cutness at number 8. My number 7 is Envy and his Dawns of the World. Now, Envy played a very impressive battle against Parker. I know Parker was my number 12, but Parker had a decent team. I really liked his Fairy Dragon Steel Core, probably one of the best in the entire minor leagues. And also, I didn't even think it was a bad team. Like, I just didn't like the team. But Envy just proved that even though his team wasn't the best, Envy's a very, very, very good battler. It was just a matter of how would he fit in the format, because, people that are good, like Joey. I mean, Joey turned out to be good in the format too, but, not the dominating Joey that we, thought 15-0. But, Envy showed that, he could, although it was, again, my number 12 team, he showed that he could get used to the format very well. And, we'll just have to see in future weeks if he can still prove that he can be good in the format. 1 week isn't enough to prove it, but it certainly helps. Alright, moving on to Richard's number 7. He has Salem and his Kansas City Roggen Royals. He doesn't have much to say here. Salem was his number 2 team in the preseason, but due to a combination of, a lot of teams in front of him winning, except for one, I believe, in Richard's power rankings, he just had to drop him. He didn't think Salem played badly at all. It's just that Michael played really, really well in the end and was able to beat him. And, again, Richard doesn't have much to say, so that is Richard's number 7, the Kansas City Roggen Royals. Alright, so moving on to number 6, I have the San Francisco 49 Tails, Boo. Boo was my number 4 ranked team in the preseason, and he lost to my number 3 ranked team, Andrew, in the Miami Heatrans. So I didn't really dock him that much. I still really love his team. It's a very, very scary team. And he lost to the number 3 team in my preseason power ranking. Well, actually, in both of our preseason power rankings, although Boo was ranked significantly lower in Richard's. He lost a close 1-0. Andrew just played really, really well. And they both played well. They were very similar in terms of on the field play. But Andrew I think I would say Andrew out-prepared him before the game. So I think the game was won with preparation. And, no matter how well Boo played, if he had played really well, he might have been able to still beat Andrew. But he was not able to outplay Andrew, and that ended up ending in a loss. And yeah, that's the reason I have Boo and his San Francisco 49 Tails at number 6. All right, so for Richard's number 6, he has MB and his Dons of the World. Again, he doesn't have much to say. He does, see the oddity in MB's team. He still knows he's a very good player, and he's proven that he does know how to use his team. That one game was enough to prove that he at least knows how to use the team. He may not be proven enough in the format yet because it's one game, but he at least knows. It looks like he at least knows how to use his team. His 5-0 victory against Parker, Richard's number 5 in the preseason, was quite impressive in Richard's opinion, so he moved up MB accordingly, which, I can agree with. If I didn't have I had Parker number 12, and I still moved MB up 4 places, mostly because teams in front of him lost, but still, very impressive on MB's part. So that was Richard's number 6, MB and his Dons of the World. Now number 5, moving on, number 5, I have Cutness and his Virginia Tech Frokies. This was mainly due to teams above Cutness, or one team above Cutness, winning, because I think, if I remember right, he was number 6 in my preseason power rankings. Again, wasn't too impressive. I pretty much just moved him up because, a team in front of him lost. And, actually, I think about 2 teams in front of him maybe lost. But I still wasn't that quite impressed, so I moved somebody behind him ahead of him, because they impressed me a lot more. But, he still won the game over a team that was only 1 rank behind him in Stab, who was number 7 in the preseason. So, the game, it was still a really, really good game. Ended up winning Game of the Week for the Miners for week 1. I just think it wasn't all that impressive of a win, but, he still won, and in the end, no matter how impressive, a W is still a W. So that's why I have Cutness and his Virginia Tech Rookies at number 5. All right, for Richard's number 5, he has Vic. He already covered a lot of what he wanted to say about Vic's team, or in this match when he talked about Ashley. Vic put up a very impressive performance with his team. He and MB actually both moved up 6 ranks. MB from number 12 to number 6, and Vic from number 11 to number 5. Because, I had Vic preseason ranked number 1. Richard felt very differently, but, he said he had potential, and obviously it showed because Richard felt comfortable enough to move him up 6 places to number 5. Alright, for my number 4, I have Palm Man and his Brisbane Breloons. Now, Palm was only ranked 1 place behind Mono at number 9, and Mono was ranked number 8. However, he impressed me so much with his game. His sets were quirky and weird, but they worked, and they threw Mono off. They might have not thrown a lesser player off, but Palm knew that, against somebody like Mono, he had to kind of throw off the opponent. Not saying that Palm couldn't have won with just, regular sets, because Palm is also a very good player as well. But he was able to use his weird and quirky sets to his advantage, and he was able to beat Mono in kind of a comeback, because Mono was actually ahead for most of the match, and Palm was able to play the end game very well and was able to beat Mono, I believe, 2-0, if I'm remembering correctly. So yes, that is why Palm is my number 4 with his Brisbane Breloons. Alright, for Richard's number 4, he has Michael and his Green Bay Palkias. He was very impressed with his match. Michael did beat his former ranked 2 team with an awesome comeback. Michael did play very well with that Typhlosion in the end. Richard compliments that amazing Typhlosion set. It was Solar Beam, Power Herb, Earthquake, Flamethrower, Eruption. It was indeed a very incredible set that just went through Salem's team when it came in the second time. And Typhlosion did prove its worth to both of us. We both kind of criticized the Typhlosion pick. I said it might have some potential, but I still thought there was a better fire type he could have picked in NU. But it proved its worth to us, to both of us, and that's why Richard has moved him from number 7 to number 4. All right, for my number 3, I still have Andrew in the Miami Heat Trans. Now, I really want to move up Richard, at least to number 2, if not to number 1. But unfortunately, the two teams above him played pretty well. Actually, they played really well, and they both won. So unfortunately, I can't do that. But Andrew played extremely well. He had HP Bug, Rosa Raid, Focus Sash, Turn 1, killed the Hoopa, the biggest threat to his team. He had a Fizz-Def, or mostly Fizz-Def, Choppleberry Kyurem that could easily take a high jump kick. And it ended up coming down to that because, Boo didn't even go for high jump pick because I think he suspected that he did have the Choppleberry, as that's the reason Andrew saved it until the last Mon. And he was able just to click Outrage and kill Lop to win the game. So yeah, very, very impressive preparation. They both played pretty similarly, like I said when I was talking about Boo. But Andrew's preparation was on point, and I really wish I could move him up, but unfortunately I have to keep him and his Miami Heat Trans at number 3. So, for Richard's number 3, he has Mono. Mono was formerly ranked number 1 in his preseason power rankings, and he did play a good game against a great opponent. Like I said, Richard had him at number 1 originally, and although he did lose, he still has a lot of faith in Mono as a battler. I did have Mono number 8 earlier, but again, that's only because he lost. If he had won, or if it had been as good as a game in terms of a 0-0 tie, I probably would have moved Mono up myself. But unfortunately, he lost to my number 9 team, who actually ended up being my number 4 team. But again, if Mono keeps playing as well and maybe gets out some W's, I will definitely move him up easily. And I'm sure Richard will be happy to move him back up to the top 2 places as well. All right, so for my number 2, I actually have Chelseadra. Vic, it's kind of weird because he was number 1 in the preseason, and, I had, and he won by even bigger margin than Michael did. However, and he even played in what was in my rankings, the tougher player. However, it was mainly, again, like I said, Ashley was 5 due to her team, not her coaching abilities. So, in my opinion, Vic actually played the weaker coach. And, I'm not going to take away from him for that because that's just the way the schedule goes. But I feel like a tougher coach, a tougher week 1 match would have given him a bit of trouble. Because even still, even though he played Ashley, she had neutral natures. And she played poorly. She still only lost 4-0. It wasn't even a 5-0 or a 6-0. And if she had played just a little bit better, she might have actually been able to only lose 2 or 3-0. If not, pull out a win if she had saved Ditto a little bit there. But, I'm not taking that away from Vic. Just my number 1 team really impressed me with their week 1 win, and that's why they moved up to number 1. But as for Vic, he and his Chelseadra, I don't know if I should say plural on that, but Chelseadra and Vic are number 2. All right, for Richard number 2, he has Andrew in the Miami Heat Trans. Andrew played a very close game against Richard's former rank 8. Andrew was formerly Richard's rank 3, just like Andrew was my current rank 3 and former rank 3 as well. And since both teams above Andrew lost in Richard's power rankings, it only made sense that Andrew should move up in rank. He doesn't have a lot to say about this game, just that Andrew looked quite strong so far and to keep up the good work. So that is why Richard has Andrew and his Miami Heat Tran at number 2. So now we're getting into the good stuff. We have number 1, my number 1, the Green Bay Palkias. Now, preseason, I don't know if you guys remember this, but the only reason I had to keep Michael from number 1 is because I think overall Vic's team was better. I think every pick was each had its own value. I thought Michael's last pick in Typhlosion had potential, but in my opinion, there were better fire types. However, Michael, week 1 against Salem, proved me wrong. With Typhlosion going 4-0, Michael proved that he could use it very, very, very well. And I just had to move him up to number 1, because literally the only reason he was number 1 was because of Typhlosion, and he proved me wrong. So, that is why Michael is mine, and his Green Bay Palkias are my number 1. Alright, so finally, Richard's number 1. He has Palm Man and his Brisbane Braylims. In Richard's analysis, Palm pulled off a very impressive victory against Richard's former ranked number 1 team. He did make quite a big 5-rank jump from 6th to 1st, including hopping over Andrew, who was 3 ranks above him in the preseason power rankings. But Richard felt that his performance in this match against Mono was very deserving of such a high rank, despite his rather quirky play style, which I talked about when I had Palm at number 4. He is a very effective battler who I feel as though I very much underestimated in the preseason, as did I. But yeah, that is the NPL Minors Season 1, Week 1 power rankings. Richard and I should be back together for next week, outside of any other Camtasia happenings. But if you guys did enjoy this power rankings, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the NPL. We will be bringing you more content, or very consistent content every week, about 5 or 6 uploads a week. So look forward to that. I will also list the games in the description below, because not every coach, in fact very few coaches, actually upload in the Minder, since it is not a requirement. So I will leave the replays to that game in the description below, and go check out those replays, because they were almost all very good games. But I've said all I can say. So this has been Trev the King, signing out. Peace.